This is the Manga Xanadu Manga Dome podcast. I am your host, Laurie Henderson. Join me on this journey into the world of manga, where a river of reviews flow through caverns of commentary down into the latest news. Welcome to the Manga Dome. Manga news. Over Memorial Day weekend, fans attended cons on both coasts. Anime Boston was on the East Coast, and Fanime was on the West. A few manga publishers had panels, while others were only on the floor. Of the panels, there wasn't a lot going on. Anime Boston only had one panel by a major publisher, Kodansha Comics. They talked about titles they already announced for release, such as Attack on Titan, Sailor Moon, and Number 6. They did mention they had 3 shoujo titles in the works, but no new announcements would come until Anime Expo at least. Over at Fanime, Digital Manga Publishing announced some new BL and hentai titles, but the only news of a non-sexually explicit nature was that their manga adaptation of Vampire Hunter D would end at Volume 8. This is sad news to me. I really enjoyed the manga adaptations. Viz Media had a Shonen Jump panel where they announced a new short story contest for Weekly Shonen Jump, and entries could be in English, Japanese, or Chinese. This is part of the 45th anniversary of the magazine. Relating to titles, they only repeated the announcements they made in February. While not attending any cons, 7 Seas Entertainment announced 3 new titles over Twitter. They were the only publisher to announce anything new over the weekend. Strike Witches is best known for its anime, but it has also had several manga released. Strike Witches Maidens of the Sky is a 2-volume series that follows Yoshika Miyafuji, a healer and the newest member of the 501st Joint Fighter Wing. In order to survive, she has to learn quickly from veteran ace Mio Sakamoto what it means to be a strike witch. The series is of course most memorable for the Funimation ad campaign, Winning the War on Pants. At least that's how I know it. This gets a oh hell no. The second is Makai Oji, Devils and Realist. William, the son of an aristocratic family, returns to try and salvage the family name from financial ruin and instead summons a devil who tells him that he is the Elector, who can choose the next acting king of hell. The series is serialized in monthly comic Zero Sum and will no doubt be filled with lots of bishonen. It also has an anime scheduled to start running in July. I liked other titles from Zero Sum, so I'll give this one a wait and see. The third series is Dragonar Academy. It is about Ash Blake, who is destined to be a dragon master, but until now has been unable to summon his dragon. When he finally does, it appears as a pretty girl who subsequently tells him that she is the master and he is the servant. The series screams ecchi, but it's also about dragons, so I'm torn about reading it. It also gets a wait and see. Over at Viz Manga, the top 10 is very fluid. Of all of the titles that appeared last week, only 3 remain on the list, and 1 series. Starting at number 1 is Cross Manage, a sports manga that is both a new Weekly Shonen Jump and digital title. Former number 1 Naruto Volume 61 drops down to number 2. Classic shoujo Kare First Love Volume 1 debuts at number 3. Another classic shoujo, From Far Away Volume 7, comes in at number 4. Shaman King Volume 27 is at number 5 and is nearing the end. Case Closed Volume 4 takes the place of Volume 1 and comes in at number 6. Nisekoi Volume 3 moves up 1 spot to number 7, while Siren Volume 10 falls 4 to come in at number 8. The third classic shoujo to be on the list is Red River Volume 7 at number 9, and the shonen Flame of Recca rounds out the list at number 10. Shonen titles still dominate the list with 7 of 10 spots, but I think it's really interesting that the 3 shoujo on the list are all older shoujo. Viz was smart to re-release these titles. I'm also glad to see Cross Manage debut at number 1. I really enjoyed the chapters of this series I read in Shonen Jump. Jmanga, A Final Farewell. This week saw the end of Jmanga, the streaming manga site where 37 Japanese publishers came together to make their titles available legally in English. I don't want to talk about what went wrong. That's immaterial now. What I do want to talk about is the titles I discovered on the site. I was cautious about Jmanga at first. I didn't like the pricing or the streaming, but they did come out with some interesting and quirky titles. One of the first things that got me to subscribe was the abundance of pet manga. I love animals, cats especially, so I gravitated toward the non-depressing titles. Edo Neko Jubei Oto Gizoshi is a cat manga about a painter who can't paint people, but is really good at painting cats. He wanders Edo, offering to paint cats to keep rats away with his yokai two-tailed cat who puts the souls of cats into the paintings. I love this one, and I'm glad we got the whole series. Now Go Straight Guide Dog Trainer is about a young woman who is too blunt and has no direction in her life. She meets a blind man who suggests she should be a guide dog trainer and suddenly pushes her into a job where she finds new friends and a new purpose in life. I like this series. It had a lot of information about what a guide dog trainer is and why they do the things they do that might seem strange to outsiders. Pollo Pollo Observation Diary is a 4-comma series about a family that takes in a cat that is round. This is one of the few 4-comma that I enjoyed and thought the series was hysterical. I bought the new volumes as soon as they came out. I also love historical manga, so I picked up a couple of titles in that genre. King's Moon, The Life of Akechi Mitsuhide, was about the man who was the right-hand man to Oda Nobunaga, whose conquests paved the way for the Tokugawa shogunate, while Hanagatari Tenshion Atsuhime chronicles its end. Both were enjoyable, though I liked Hanagatari more. Tenkaichi is a pseudo-historical fantasy where a high school girl is sent back in time to the Warring States period and in order to get back, has to change history and keep Nobunaga from dying. She gets in close to Nobunaga by using psychology tests as fortune-telling tools. This was a very mediocre title with the excuse of getting a girl surrounded by lots of bishonen. Another interesting series of titles Jmanga picked up were literary classics made into manga. Only 2 of these titles really caught my interest. I Am a Cat, which tells about the author and his family from the perspective of a stray cat that wanders into their house. You can tell this was a classic because the cat dies at the end. Not at all happy with that one. Journey to the West was much more fun. It is a classic Chinese tale that inspired many manga, including Dragon Ball. This title was a lot of fun to read and was the last title I read before the site went down. I'm glad I was able to squeeze it in. Jmanga also started rescuing titles from other defunct publishers. The biggest one for me was Tactics. I got all the volumes of the series when Tokyopop had licensed it and was disappointed when I could only get as far as volume 8. Jmanga was able to release another 4 volumes, which as far as I'm concerned is awesome. I also picked up the 2nd volume of Fairy Navigator Runa, a former Del Rey title. I had liked the first volume, but not really enough to clutter my bookshelf. I would clutter my digital bookshelf. I was also thrilled when they released Mythical Detective Loki, the first series by the artist of Tactics, Sakura Kinoshita. I've been dying for this series in English, and Jmanga was able to release all 5 volumes. It's a boy detective series that features the Norse god of mischief as a boy's detective solving supernatural crimes and interacting with other Norse gods who have come to Earth to either help or hinder him. Urameshi was another supernatural mystery series that had a much more mature bend. I loved this title as well. It built up this great relationship between Urameshi and Sanji and had some fun yokai stories. We only got 3 of the 4 volumes, which is a crime in my book. Sherlock Holmes is getting reimagined by everyone, but only the Japanese would make him a timid boy with supernatural powers, and Watson his eye-patch-wearing, gun-toting assistant. I was really looking forward to Volume 2. It could be hit or miss when buying titles off Jmanga. Often the descriptions or previews weren't enough to really get a feel for a title. That's how I ended up with the 2 ecchi titles, Kagome Kagome and Tsukumomo. Kagome Kagome sounded like it would have an intriguing supernatural mystery plot. Instead, it headed in the direction of a harem title, with 2 very different girls, both named Kagome, obsessed with the cursed boy lead. Tsukumomo is about a boy who released the Tsuchigomo that lives in the sash his mother gave him. It's another series of a loser boy being surrounded by women, both big-breasted and, more disturbingly, young girls. I felt dirty after reading these. A couple of titles I picked up were purely based on who the mangaka was. Hyakusho Kizoku was written by Hiromu Arakawa, the creator of Fullmetal Alchemist. It is about her experiences as a farmer in Hokkaido before becoming a mangaka. It was another very funny title. Crazy for You is a shoujo series by Kaho Shiina, the creator of Kimi ni Todoke. This is another title I bought on site without actually reading the volumes. We were shorted by 1 volume on this series. Japan Sinks is a title I would have bought no matter who had done it. But the adaptation being by Takao Saito was only a plus. I know others have complained about how wordy it was, but I loved it, scientific rhetoric and all. There were some miscellaneous volumes I picked up as well. Nagomi Club was the only title I didn't get to read. It was a title I picked up at the last minute and bought the wrong volume, so I wasn't too broke up about missing it. It was an impulse buy that proved to be too impulsive. Madam Joker was another detective series I got a couple of volumes of but didn't really enjoy. I stopped after volume 2. Love Beyond Time was a 2-volume series that had both volumes released at the same time. It was a supernatural shoujo, and I thought it was okay, but not something I'd write home about. Clairvoyance was a title I thought had potential, but found the localization severely lacking. I was surprised to see that Manga had rescued it as a DMG title. Hopefully we will see a better localization. Town of Evening Calm, Country of Cherry Blossoms was another impulse buy, but it was a good one. The first half of the manga was so powerful and well done, it comes off as little surprise to me that critics loved it so much. Koitama was a fun manga about voice acting, which I would love to see rescued as well. I didn't think I would like it at first, but by the end of the first volume, it really grew on me. Puzzles on an Isolated Island is a murder mystery in the vein of Case Closed or Kendachi Case Files, but without the boy detective. It was about some college kids in a mystery novel club who go on a treasure hunt on a small island where a typhoon traps them and 2 people are murdered. It's like a locked room mystery times 2 with some hints of romance. It was another okay, but nothing to write home about title. Jmanga still exists, but it is just a shadow of its former self. It's just a catalog now of all the titles that were and could have been. And that is what I think is the biggest disappointment about Jmanga closing. It had so much potential. There are 35 pages of titles, some of which we got to read, and a whole lot more that I wish had been made available. Some publishers, like Kadokawa Shoten, put up titles to whet our appetite but never intended to sate. Really, I would rather not know than see these titles I wanted to read but would never get to. Other publishers, Mag Garden specifically, took down all their titles before the deadline of 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Titles I had gotten from them were gone before 7 p.m. and don't even appear on the site now. I do hope another legal aggregate site comes around. Jmanga had a lot of great titles from different publishers in one place. If we could get something like a comiXology of manga, but with download offline reading capabilities, and only titles that would be available and not just what could be, I would sign up again. Hopefully lessons can and will be learned from Jmanga and everyone will grow from the experience. Thank you for listening to the Manga Xanadu Manga Dome podcast. You can find links to the stories and books discussed here in the show notes at manga.jdragononline.com. You can email me with any questions at xanadu@jdragononline.com or leave a comment on this post. Rate me on YouTube and follow me on Twitter at Manga Xanadu, all one word. Until next time, farewell from the Manga Dome.